Joan Herlock joining us this morning. She's been on the show before. I was away, and she was chatting actually some months ago when I was on vacation with Steve Millington about the very same subject we're talking about today. Back then, I thought, oh, this will go away. We're talking about the proposed wind farm in southern Twin Falls County. That is the Salmon Falls project, not to be confused with the other massive project, which is Lava Ridge, which would be north of the river in three counties, Jerome, Lincoln, and Minidoka. But I was just commenting to a previous guest. I said, it's one of those issues that has seemed to, in an age when we have a lot of people who are divided politically, it's one of those issues that brings a lot of people together because party affiliation doesn't seem to matter when it comes to people's feelings on this, especially when they're opposed to it. And wanted to mention, Joan's going to be with us this hour. She's going to be taking some comments and questions if you have any as well. I already had one emailed our way. 5 minutes after 9 o'clock, and we're at 58. Bill Colley on News Radio 96.1 FM, 1310 KLIX, and News Radio 1310.com. I'd say welcome back. It's the first time we're meeting, but welcome back.
Good morning. Thank you for having me on, Bill.
Well, this project has gotten, I mean, I've been here in this job 7.5 years. I don't think I've seen anything that has been so much on the public radar, the scale of on the public radar that this project is, and the other one too, obviously. But there seems to be a concern. There's nothing we can do as the public.
I'm here to dispel all of those myths. First off, these projects, they are one and the same. They're linked. They're all brought about by the same company, which is LS Power. They are a New York-based company, and they came here to Idaho and created an LLC called Magic Valley Energy. And I suppose that so there will be buy-in by Magic Valley residents if it has a nice Magic Valley sounding name. It is an out-of-state company. And these projects, there's actually 3 of them. They are all linked and all being proposed by this company. And it is vast, and it is, so raping and pillaging of our land is about to take place and descend upon the Magic Valley if people do not get engaged and get off their butts and write letters and write emails to our elected officials and sign petitions and show up at meetings. So please, everyone, get involved. But I can give you all the details about this. This will encompass the 3 projects are Lava Ridge, Salmon Falls, and Taurus. The Lava Ridge project is about 73,000 acres on BLM land east of Jerome. It's Jerome, Minidoka, and Lincoln counties. And it will involve about 400 wind turbines. These wind turbines, when people, I think, once they realize the size of these things, all I have to do is show them a picture of the size comparison, and that immediately alarms them. And if they were maybe in favor of them before, they are no longer. But these wind turbines will be about 740 feet tall. To give you some perspective, the wind turbines in the Bell Rapids area out by
Your Hagerman, right? Yeah.
Yes. Those are half the size. So these will be 740 feet tall, massive wind turbines. To compare the size, I have a picture that shows the scale of these. If you look at them next to the Space Needle, they tower over the Space Needle. They tower over by 2 to 3 times the Statue of Liberty. So imagine 400 Space Needle-sized things out in our wonderful, beautiful desert, which the East Coast people probably look at that as it's wasteland, and it is not. It is very valuable habitat, environment, and heritage, all of these things that this land encompasses. The Salmon Falls project will be about 70,000 acres and will be about 300 of these wind turbines. The Taurus project will be about 56,000 acres.
Now, where would the Taurus project be located?
It is between Gooding and Wendell. So it's the BLM lands out in that area. All in all, it's about 200,000 acres of the Magic Valley. This is not a small thing. There's kind of a joke that if this gets passed or approved by the BLM, this will be the world's largest red light district because they will have to put all those little red lights on top of these things.
Flashing at all times.
Flashing at all times, yes. And so I have a map and it shows these projects, and it's a vast amount of land. It will impact all areas of our community and lives, everything from grazing to hunting. If you're a bird watcher, if you like to go out on your ATV in BLM lands, if you want to ride your horse out there, it wind turbine, there is nothing green, not one thing green or beneficial to wind turbines. They are destructive to the environment. You have to go out and blast through all our lava rock to pour the concrete foundations. These concrete foundations, they're 60 feet in diameter. They're 12 feet above the ground, the pedestals. And I don't know how deep they go, but I imagine they have to go pretty deep to be able to sustain a 740-foot tall tower.
Well, when China was pouring concrete to build all of these new cities a few years ago, I remember people saying that concrete production, if you worry about climate change and the production of concrete is one of the worst things you can be doing. So in order to put these things up, because they say it's renewable clean energy, they're pouring thousands, hundreds of thousands of yards of concrete.
Yes. Yes, and there is, if you know anything about what's going on in the Magic Valley in the building construction material industry, we do have a concrete shortage. That's why housing is taking so long. Houses are taking so long to build because they're literally rationing concrete. And we have a labor shortage. We also have a housing shortage. This company is going around to all the communities. I know they were in Filer last night at their city council meeting. I call it their propaganda tour. And they're trying to sell the wonders of wind energy. Well, I have several sources that people can look into to see how devastating wind turbines are to the environment, to wildlife, to birds. The blades on these things will be the length of a 747. When those things get going, smaller wind turbines, the speed of the outer part of the blade reaches over 200 miles an hour. These things get going in the air and they act like Ginsu knives. They slice and dice and they chop up birds. They behead eagles. They chop the wings off. They cut their bodies in half. They are devastating to eagle populations, bat populations, insects. Again, there's nothing green or good about this project.
There's a project like this that went up in the Sandhills in Nebraska, and I was reading about it in Range magazine a couple of months ago, and it's so big that it's created its own weather system. And they showed an overhead picture, and the cloud formation behind on the backside, which it takes up thousands of acres. So they went from all of the sunny skies, and that's a pretty sunny part of the country as well, to having a lot of overcast days because of this. And then, as I understand that speed when those things turn around, even if the birds were trying to avoid it, it creates such a draft, it will actually, airborne animals can be sucked into that, right?
Yes, I believe that to be true. I don't know for sure, but I know it disrupts how bats fly by sonar. It disrupts that, so they fly into them. It kills these birds and bats by the millions.
Well, bats are threatened already because the paper said today, the lead story in the paper was they found this bat fungus in caves in Idaho, so they're threatened there. So this would be a double threat. A fellow wrote me earlier and said, well, sage grouse too, which is supposed to be a protected species, they would obviously be impacted too, right?
Yes, because if we have to go out, just take the Lava Ridge project, because that's the one furthest along in their proposals. They will have to put out about 400 miles worth of roads on BLM land, And what that does is it fragments the habitat. Haven't we just spent years and lots of money trying to bring back our sage grouse population and the habitat? It takes decades. Once you go through and blast and bulldoze and put in roads and these concrete foundations, it doesn't take 6 months to grow sagebrush back. It's decades before it's grown back as viable habitat. Who? I'm just going to take an issue here with our Republican elected officials. I am a staunch Republican. I'd be considered I'm a right wing extremist, probably. But the Republican candidates ran on Idaho values, common sense conservatism, and I'm a fourth generation Idahoan. So, you fourth generation Idaho Republicans with your common sense conservative Idaho values, where is the common sense in this proposal? If you allow this to go through and pass, and I was listening to Ms. Babayan talk about the money. Yes, follow the money. This has nothing to do with saving the environment. This will destroy the environment. If you're a true environmentalist, you cannot possibly be in favor of this project.
We got to get to a break in about a minute. I got a note from a writer over in Rupert who says, where is the good tree-hugging environmentalist when you need them? Lawsuits are going to be the only way to stop these things. And so we'll talk a bit more about this. Joan Herlock joining us this morning, and she's talking about these wind farms, these proposals, and we're going to go into some detail. Plus, there's a meeting scheduled next week in Twin Falls. We'll talk a little bit about that, too, as well. In the meantime, I've got to get to a break, and we'll take a couple of minutes. I looked at my clock, and I'm looking through we got 2 minutes, actually. I thought I had 20 seconds. That's the problem I have. New trifocals, they're about 2 months old, and I'm still struggling with those. So that's the point. I said earlier, this kind of unites people, though. You're meeting people at these meetings who are coming in, and they're from every walk of life, right?
Yes, what I am finding and saying to people, we are pretty divided. We're divided in the Republican Party. We're divided in this country. This is one issue. This should be an Idaho issue. It should unite everyone. I have met people that are on the complete opposite end of the spectrum politically that have signed my petitions, and they are opposed to it. So this is something that unites everybody. And again, we can stop this, and I can go into all of that after your break, but this is a uniting Idaho issue. If you truly love Idaho and the Magic Valley, you will do everything in your power to stop this. And I'm wanting our elected officials serve the people that voted for you, not the special interests. Stand up, have some guts, have some courage, take a stand like Roy Huber did, Lincoln County Commissioner. He's come out and said he's publicly opposed to this. He's a good resource to call on if you want to find out all the really nefarious things about these projects.
Got a note from a writer in Twin Falls who said, "Is it true turbines chop up the jet stream and cause the droughts?" Again, we don't know, but there's a mini climate that develops.
I can tell you, I've talked to a former almond farmer from California who moved here to get away from California, but he said in the almond orchards, they use these things when there's warnings of frost to protect their crops. They put up these, they call them wind machines, but they're literally mini wind turbines. They look just like them. And one wind turbine can take care of 40 acres. And it will be enough once they get spinning to raise the temperature on that 40 acres by 4 degrees. It saves their crops. But he said, so how much will the temperature be raised with 300 of these things south of us here?
More on the way with Joan Herlock. We're talking the proposed wind farms here in the Magic Valley of Idaho. And I got a lot of questions and comments coming in on the app. And of course, we'll try to squeeze in some of your telephone calls as well. It's 20 minutes after 9 o'clock. We're at 60 on Magic Valley this morning with Bill Colley on News Radio 96.1 FM, 1310 KLIX, and newsradio1310.com. Hey, before we get to the telephones, Joan Herlock wants to get to about three different things to point out that people really need to know when it comes to these proposed wind farms. And we're at 9:23. It is 60. Bill Colley with you, too, on Magic Valley this morning on News Radio 96.1 FM, 1310 KLIX, and newsradio1310.com. Let's just quickly, jumping off point, meeting on Tuesday, County West Planning and Zoning Committee room, right?
Yes, at 5:30.
So for people who want more detailed information, it's a good-sized room. And probably there will be some overflow, but
My goal is let's fill the parking lot.
fill the parking lot, and we can do that. That is on the Addison Avenue side of County West, and it's on the ground floor, we should point out, too, as well. So that's an informational meeting on that. Two other things I know you wanted to mention as well before we got too much beyond this, but it's obviously, is it a done deal? That comes up a lot, right?
Yes, let me talk about that. No, it is not a done deal. It is not inevitable, and it is not imminent. I attended a Jerome County Commissioners meeting, and one of the commissioners was able to get out of the representative from Magic Valley Energy that, well, there are several options we can take. They were there to give an update where they were in the process. They're currently waiting the environmental impact study report to come out, and that won't come out until fall. But what the Commissioner Crozier was able to get out of the Magic Valley Energy person was one of the options the BLM can take is to do nothing and not approve this. So what he wanted the audience to understand is he made a statement. This audience that's here at this county commissioners meeting is under the impression this is a done deal. There's nothing you can do about it. And you're going to start building these things next week. And pretty much I'm here to tell you it is not a done deal. It has not been approved. In fact, it will take a much longer time to get approval if they ever get it. It will determine what will determine that are the results of their environmental impact studies. They also have to do studies on how this will impact our archaeological and historical sites. They have to do studies on how this will impact our airports, because this will impact our airports. These will be in violation of the Federal Aviation Administration rules and regulations. One of the impacts these will have is on, so airplanes they can't fly within so many miles of things this high. How will that impact our fire suppression if the BLM land catches on fire? You're not going to be able to fly planes out there and put those fires out. You won't be able to crop dust your crops because you won't be able to fly however close to these wind turbines. So it impacts everything. They still have to do all those studies. And one way we get this shut down is, our elected officials say, well, there's nothing we can do about it. It's federal land. Well, we have some federal elected officials that can do something about it. They have titles, and with those titles come influence. And I've been told, well, we haven't really had any public comment about this. Okay, I'm going to get you public comment. And please hear us, and hear us loudly and clearly. We do not want this here. With enough public comment and input to our congressional delegation, our county commissioners, our local state representatives, and the BLM. The BLM needs your comments as well. They can shut this down. They can not approve of this. It isn't a done deal. And people they must, I've been the little pest. I keep emailing and texting people, please get your letter in. So people, please send your letters in. I don't care what you have going on in your life. Go to bed 10 minutes later. Write one little email, and can be short, sweet, to the point. Say I'm opposed to them for whatever reason, and email it to all those people. I have an email list I can email you if you'd like, but They need to hear from us. They need to hear from us loudly and clearly. And I want our elected officials stand for something, and fight for something. This land is worth fighting for. That's why I live here. No, I'm not a fourth generation Idahoan. I wasn't born here. I moved here on purpose because I like the wide open spaces. I like the desert. This is a beautiful area. It isn't wasteland. It is worth fighting for. Stand up, people. You know what? Years ago, we've had things where the people rose up against the federal government. It was the Sagebrush Rebellion. And then a few years later, the Shovel Brigade. This is our wind turbine uprising. We need an uprising, and we need to let our voices be heard.
We'll take a short break. We've got more coming up with Joan Herlock. We'll try to get some calls in the next half hour, too, as well, on News Radio 96.1 FM, 1310 KLIX, and newsradio1310.com at 62. Bill Colley with you on Magic Valley this morning. Joan Herlock joining us this morning, and we just want to point out she's done probably the greatest amount of research on the subject of these wind farms in the Magic Valley, and she's here until 10 o'clock this morning. We're at 60. 934, Bill Colley on Magic Valley this morning on News Radio 96.1 FM, 1310 KLIX, and newsradio1310.com. One of the quick things you wanted to mention before we got to the phone calls. I know you had some notes that you were going over here.
Yes. First off, excuse me, I want to mention there is a group that formed and made a website for the Lava Ridge Project. It's called stoplavaridge.org, and they're a group that's come together to fight the Lava Ridge Project.
And they have a Facebook presence, too.
Yes. And part of why I'm on the Salmon Falls project now is because they stressed Salmon Falls is about a year and a half behind where they are in the process going forward. So they said, get started now. You help us, we'll help you. Let's all do this together. Let's unite and get this shut down. But I want to give a few websites and resources where people can read or watch some documentaries to find out about the devastating impacts that these wind turbines have. The first source it's a movie you can rent on Amazon. It's called Planet of the Humans. And this was a movie produced by Michael Moore.
I watched it 2 weeks ago.
Yes. And Michael Moore is not exactly a right-wing extremist. He's way on the left. But this documentary exposes how devastating wind turbines, solar farms, green energy actually are. He is kind of a proponent of population control and let's wipe out the humans. That being said, he does point out how bad these wind turbines are. There's a documentary that's on the right side of things that Tucker Carlson did. It's called Blown Away.
Saw that one too.
The People versus Wind Power. That's on Fox Nation. So you have someone on the right, someone on the left, and they both did documentaries that reach the same conclusion. There is a book called Apocalypse Never. It is written by Michael Schellenberger. Again, he's not someone that's on the right. He was an award-winning environmentalist during the Obama era, and he wrote this book exposing all of the kind of propaganda and lies about green energy and the roots of all that. And again, going back to Ms. Babayan's comment, follow the money. The wind farms, the solar panels, the anti-nuclear energy, it all is tied into follow the money. It does not have one thing to do with saving the environment, because a true environmentalist could not possibly support these wind turbines. So Apocalypse Never by Michael Schellenberger. There are two websites where you can read all about wind farms all over the world. And one is called stopthesethings.com. And their whole mission is to basically eliminate wind power from the face of the earth. And I would agree with them. The other one is windwatch.org. Both of these websites, they put articles that they gather from all over the world about the devastating impacts wind farms have, the health risks, because there are health problems associated with wind turbines. It's called wind turbine syndrome. Um, they also put articles that of all the communities that are fighting back and shutting these projects down, because these companies go to these rural communities and try and get these in with promises of lots of money and lots of jobs. And I'm here to tell you the money and the jobs don't materialize. And a good source for that information is, again, Commissioner Roy Huber out of Lincoln County. He has all the information about that. And the communities that have put these in, they horribly regret them later because, again, the money does not materialize, the jobs do not materialize. And that's how this company is going around the community. They're making promises of money and jobs, and that isn't going to happen. When this project is completed, if it were to be approved, it's 20 jobs. 20. So we're going to tear up all of our BLM land for 20 jobs. And the power that's produced by these will not stay here. It is going to California and Nevada. Look at their website, their own website. They have a transmission line. Starts at Lava Ridge, goes down to Las Vegas. It's called the One Nevada transmission line. So they say, oh, we don't have any signed sales contracts yet. We don't know who's buying the energy. I'm sorry, but I find it hard to believe that people are going to invest billions of dollars in this project and not know who is buying this power.
We're going to get to a break. We'll take one more break and then more with John Hurlock on the way. Also, the Cal Thomas Morning Commentary is coming up. It is almost 9:40, and we're at 62 on Magic Valley this morning on News Radio 96.1 FM, 1310 KLIX, and News Radio 1310.com. John Hurlock with us this morning, and we're talking about not just really the Salmon Falls wind farm proposal, but she's talking about the three that would take place in the Magic Valley, all of them interrelated. And it's 9:46 on Magic Valley this morning with Bill Colley on News Radio 96.1 FM, 1310 KLIX, and News Radio 1310.com. And we got a caller with us. And caller, you're up next. You're on the air on KLIX.
Joan, this is Larry in Buell. You know me through Shotzi. I understand that there are other states, areas, whatever, that have fought these windmill proposals and won. Can you speak to that at all? And I'll take my answer off the air.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, that is why I'm kind of on this mission. Again, at these websites, stopthesethings.com and windwatch.org, they have all of the information about all of the communities all over the world, actually, that are fighting these projects, and they are winning. I can't speak to any specifically, but they are all, it's happening all over the world. And in fact, one thing Michael Schellenberger brings out in his book, Apocalypse Never, is that Europe went to this green energy years ago, wind farms, solar panels, and they're starting to actually dismantle these because of the impact on the populations of flying things.
Got another caller with us, and caller, you're up next. You're on the air on KLIX. Go ahead.
Yes, first of all, Bill, you're going to have this program again and schedule it a lot longer. I live on this desolate land that is no good for anything but windmills. It's some of the most environmentally sensitive land there is in the country. I live within a quarter mile of the Oregon Trail, one branch of it. You can tell I like my desert. I like my, it's gorgeous. But when you talk about what these windmills will do, it will devastate southern Idaho. I didn't know they were planning on a strip of them from out of Gooding to Shoshone. That's one of my wife and I's favorite drives when we're out just putzing around, is to go drive through there because it is so pretty. From my place, which is over by Eden, I can see Browns Bench, China Hat, whichever you want to call it, Salmon Dam. Of course, they're talking Lava Ridge, which is 2 miles away from me, 3 miles away from me. Southern Idaho will be devastated for California's excess lifestyle. I don't even have a yard light on my place. I enjoy the darkness. I don't know why everybody thinks they need a yard light on at night so they can keep the burglar away, because a good friend of mine said,
let's get a response from Joan. Thank you.
Was there a question in?
Is there a question? Let's get a response from Joan. Thank you. Nope, I think we lost him.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I would concur with him. That is very fragile, a fragile ecosystem out there, and that's why I'm not a tree hugger, but I think the land out there is worth saving and worth fighting for. And I want to say, there's a quote that I refer to. It's by Dietrich Bonhoeffer. It is silence in the face of evil is itself evil. God will not hold us guiltless. Not to speak is to speak. Not to act is to act. I am calling on every person listening that cares about this land. Please speak. Please write a letter. Please act. Stand up and fight for this land, because once they go out there and start blasting and pouring concrete foundations and killing birds, you're not going to be able to go back. You can't go back. And I want to say this to the Magic Valley Energy people. You know what? You guys seem like really nice people, and I'm sure you have the best of intentions, because somewhere along the way you've bought into the big lie of wind turbine energy being great and green and sustainable and renewable. But you know what? There are a lot of jobs out there in this valley. Go find another job. Please leave.
We got a caller. Caller, you're up next. You're on the air on KLIX with Joan Herlock.
Good morning, Miss Bill, or Mr. Bill and Miss Joan. Yeah, one of the biggest global travesties in Idaho's direct sites immediately, and this is just the beginning. So we have basically a global green governor who is not against this, but he deregulated sage grouse in the Lava Ridge project so that this could move forward. Executive Order 2022-3. So wherever you see in District 26 signs for Little, you see signs for Lori Likely. Lori Likely has a sit-in when she's not in her chair in the legislature, who happens to be Ms. Amy Schuette, who happens to live in the Filer area, owns a Hudson and Company LLC that happens to do marketing, and she's working for Magic Valley Energy / LS Power.
Can I cut you off there, Joan? Response maybe to some of those connections?
He is correct in all of that.
So a lot of people are saying they're going to profit from this individually.
Yes, I think so.
Okay. Want to thank him for the call.
Again, follow the money.
Caller, you're up next. You're on the air on KLIX at 9:53. Go ahead.
Yes, thanks for taking my call. I don't want to repeat myself from the other day. I know for a fact that in Elmore County, here in Cassia County, Power County, maybe parts of Oneida County, we were caught off guard by these SOBs, and let's not let it happen again, folks, because these things don't pay for themselves. They're falling apart. They're terrible. We cannot allow this. I'll hang up. Thank you.
Not many questions, but a lot of comments.
We also, the Magic Valley Energy says, well, what do you do with these things when they're done? They only work about 20 years,
right?
And you can't recycle them. They get put into big landfills. Well, the company says, we're developing technology to recycle the material, and we can make pallets and milk crates out of them. So.
Carports too. That was one
Sign
of
me
the
up for pallets and milk crates.
carports. I saw an actual picture where they've sliced one of the blades and they've used it as carports, but I just don't know that there's that much demand.
I don't know. I do also know the parts are made in China and Europe, and it takes an extreme amount of diesel fuel, fossil fuels to ship them here, put them on big trucks, and move them across the country. They are not green.
We have about time for one more caller. Caller, you're up next. You're on the air on KLIX.
Yes, thank you, Joan, for leading the fight on this. Anyways, I watched the program the other night, and they were talking about the noise pollution from these major. These are much higher too. There's going to be a lot of added energy into the atmosphere, affecting wildlife, affecting people. Have you looked into this aspect
Yes.
of the noise pollution?
It's actually creates something called wind turbine syndrome. And these things are not quiet. They emit a low frequency noise. If you've ever stood near them, they are very noisy. They sound like when you stand next to a power station, that electrical popping, cracking sound. They do make noise. It disrupts people's sleep, which creates other problems. People where these have been brought in near where they live, they can't even stay in their homes.
I read about this. A couple in Michigan, they spend every night in a motel now because they couldn't sleep. They were told it was going to be 4 miles away. It ended up 1.5 miles away, and that disrupted their sleep at night.
Yes. And so if you want to know what this will do to our community, just visually, take a drive through Kansas, Oklahoma, and Texas. Those states are full of them. And I'm sorry, but that is not a pretty sight.
Texas was a real lesson for us.
Yes. They are not efficient. They are not 24/7. They only produce energy when the wind's blowing. To store the energy, they also have to have these big battery storage facilities, which are toxic. And so, no, there's nothing good about them.
Got about a minute to go. So coming up Tuesday, there'll be additional meetings, but Tuesday is the next really big opportunity for people.
Yes, Tuesday at 5:30. My main goal with that is to persuade the county commissioners to please either pass a resolution or write a letter in opposition to this and use your title that has some influence to join us in trying to shut this down, if not in some legal manner, but by public pressure.
I got a quick story I'll close with, and that came up a couple of weeks ago. I have a beautiful picture of the Camas Prairie. As you know, when you come over from Gooding, there's the overlook. And I'd love to park there and look at that view. And it came up in my Facebook feed. It said, 2 years ago today, you were here. And I love the picture, so I posted it. And immediately someone actually started drawing windmills on it. So just to show you how awful it would look if something like that would have happened there. And I think it pretty much is the consensus across southern Idaho.
Yes.
Well, I want to thank you for coming by today. And we got to mention we've got Dan Bongino up next following the news at 10 o'clock. And it is 64. Bill Colley on Magic Valley this morning saying, God willing, if the creek don't rise, I'll be back in this chair tomorrow morning between 6 and 10 a.m.